Alright, let's get right into it. If you've never done Colosseum or Inferno, this section is going to be for you. So, we're going to start with 2 monster stacks. As you can see, we have a Ranger and a Manticore here, who we want to see on the same tick. So what we're going to do is we're going to stand right on this tile here. If we wanted them to see us on different ticks, we'll stand on this tile here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to run south, and they'll spot us. In this example, we want them to see us on the same tick because the Manticore is ranged. And here's an example of that. All we have to do is just pray range and then flick the Manticore. And as you can see, that is just fine. Make sure to avoid spears, and it isn't too difficult. Next up, we have a Manticore and a Ranger again, but this time the Manticore's in front, and it's also Mage. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to off-tick it, so the Ranger will start on tick 1, and then on tick 2 the Manticore will see us, at which point we'll just flick that, and then switch back to range prey. Here's an example of how that should look. As you can see, we're going to keep range prey on, and then as soon as we see the animation from the Ranger in the back, we'll just start praying toward the Manticore. Next up, we have our first example of a Major. We're just going to do exactly how we did before. Just pray against the back monster first, and then the front monster as soon as you see the animation come in. And it is not difficult. Just wait for the Mage to attack. As soon as you see its animation, go ahead and switch to range prey and then switch back. Here's a bit of an odd stack. We have a Major with a Jaguar on the side and a Manticore behind. To get the Major in the middle tile like you're going to want, you can take a step north, lure the Jaguar, and then take a step south to that middle tile. Once you do that, you'll be able to pray against the Manticore, and then the Major will fall in right as the Manticore Mage attack comes in, which is going to be quite nice. And then you can just kill the Major, and it won't be a big issue. So to see that in practice, just keep pray for Mage on. I don't have it on here for some reason. Once you see the Mage do its second attack, every other attack, it will fall into line with the Manticore. Here we have the continuation of that. The Jaguar is in the front with the Manticore behind. There's a few things we can do here. We can either lure the Jaguar, or we can try to just range or mage it from the south side and only flick the Manticore. Because I use a primarily melee setup, I'm just going to lure it. If I was smarter about it, I would have lured it going to the south and stepping away from the pillar one tile, but I didn't know that Ranger was behind there. We can do the same thing here with just the Major. Nothing too complicated. Step out, step back. We don't have a Ranger hiding behind a pillar in this example, so it works a bit better. Moving away from Jaguars, here's a Manticore that hasn't seen us yet, so we don't know what attack style it will attack us with. What I normally do here is I'll start from the same tick tile, and if it's the same attack style as whatever's behind it, I can just keep flicking as normal. It'll fall right into line. Otherwise, I'll just run back and reset it. Majors, however, are kind of weird with Manticores. And that's because if you were paying attention, the Mage unstuck from the Manticore. We can use that in our next example here, where we have, we're currently fighting the Fremenix, and while fighting the Fremenix, we can already just go ahead and unstack her. That way we don't have to waste any time, and we can speed up the kill a little bit. For my last 2 monster example, we have a Mage with a Ranger behind it. Unfortunately, we can't step out to the side and off-tick them normally. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go to the side where the Ranger is sticking out. This is just because the Ranger's too close to the pillar, and this will happen on all sides of the pillar, so just make sure you're aware of that. Just all you have to do is flick range and then mage. And here you can see I killed the major first because it's faster. Alright, let's get on to some fun stacks with 3 monsters. This is normally the point where I'll start running to the south pillar if I don't feel confident flicking everything for an extended period of time. Rangers can make a big influence on that because of the javelins they throw. The only new piece of information we're going to need is if we run to this tile here, the middle minion will get delayed by a tick, so it will attack with the same on the same tick as the front minion by the pillar. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just pray mage, and then as soon as I see the shockwave Colossus do its animation for its attack, I'll immediately flick range and then flick back. A small optimization you can make here is stepping out from this south pillar here, so that one minion gets dragged around. It can just help with off-ticking and speeding up kills so you only fight one monster at a time. Here we have a Manticore in the stack. Because the Manticore hasn't seen us yet, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run south no matter what. I don't want to risk it being on the wrong tick. So all I have to do is just space out so that the ranger sees me 1 tick before the major, and I can run south and do the same thing. Something I do here is I wait a tiny bit before stepping out. That way the Manticore doesn't stack with the major, and I can fight everything here one at a time, which is quite nice. Here's another example of basically the exact same wave as before, except the Manticore and Rangers have switched spots. We're just gonna do like we do before. Run south, make sure the Ranger and Shockwave Colossus are off-ticked, and have a good time. As you can see here, this is what the stack will look like if you don't time the step out correctly. Not a big deal, but just makes it easier if you get that. Here we have a Ranger and 2 Manticores. The Manticores will see us first. We want them to see us on the same tick, and then we want the Ranger to see us 1 tick later. So just stay close to the pillar, step out, and don't do what I just did there and take a bunch of damage for no reason. Yeah. Almost all 3 monsters can be solved like that and running south, or just flicking everything and attacking it if you're confident in that. Here's an example where you can't actually run south without taking damage. Typically, I just accept the damage. I don't believe there's a solve for this. However, there might be. Just as a note, pray whatever is going to hit you the hardest. For me, it's mage attacks, so I ignore the range Colossus. And yeah, I just run south, and then it's unstacked. At which point I can easily solve it with taking a little bit of damage, but it's normally pretty minimal, so should be fine. Alright, now it's time to start looking at some odd stacks. These are typically going to have 2 monsters side by side with a monster behind it. So as you can see here, we have a Ranger and a Manticore side by side with a Mage behind. And what we're going to do is we can either stand in the middle and run south, or stand in the middle and run north. Here I choose to go north. Note this would unstack any minion behind that northeast pillar, but as there was none, I can just go here and safely deal with this. After killing the Ranger, the Mage will either stack to the north or to the east, at which point it would just be a 2-stack solve, which is much easier. Here we have 2 Shockwave Colossuses with a Manticore. Because the Manticore hasn't seen us, this is a really easy solve. Just pray mage and run. The Manticore won't charge up in time to attack you, so you are free after taking 2 hits from the Shockwave. Note that whenever you're running, the northernmost minion won't actually see you. So that's pretty good to know. As you can see here, we're going to use that in our next example. I enjoy this solve a lot because we have 2 manticores as the only thing that sees us, so we don't even have to pray. We just run south and they'll charge up, but won't ever get a hit on us. Here we find ourselves in a kind of crappy situation. A ranger is attacking us, and the Minotaur has already spawned, so we can't out DPS it and kill the ranger. So what we're going to do is we're going to lure the Minotaur, and as long as we do this right, we won't take any damage. All we have to do is just make sure to get back behind the pillar where we can keep him safe spotted. At this point, because the Minotaur no longer has line of sight on that ranger, we can safely kill it. My mage gear is unfortunately not so great, but sometimes you'll just have to work with what you have. Just be careful of myopia. You don't want your attack range dragging you out where the manticores can see you back there. Here we have 4 monsters in our stack. You can't see the manticore behind the pillar, but he's there. With the mage where it's at, we're able to attack this ranger and not be seen. Note that if the mage was 1 tile south of there, it would be able to see us, and we would probably want to range or mage this front javelin, just so that we don't have to get hit by both at the same time. After killing this javelin, because the mage is 1 tile north, all we have to do is take a step south, and the mage will come all the way to us. In this stack, we have a range, 2 manticores, and a shockwave. You see that the manticores haven't spotted us yet, so we aren't sure what attack style they will be. I am taking a little bit of a risk here. It pays off because they're on the correct tick with the shockwave, so I don't have to take any damage. If they were the wrong tick, though, because the manticore in the front is sticking out, I can off-tick them even if it was, even if they went range first as their first main attack. Yeah, and then after that, it's just a simple deal with 2 manticores and then a ranger and a manticore. Next up, we have quite an interesting solve I had to do for this one. So the shockwave is sticking out, so it will always see us first, and the ranger's in the back, so there's no way to get the 2 shockwaves to attack without being on the same tick as the ranger. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the attack range of the ranger. If you're standing on this south side, you're 16 tiles away. The ranger has an attack range of 15 tiles, so just step south, run towards them, and you can set up an off-tick that way. After doing that, I hoped the manticore would attack mage, and as you can see it didn't, so it's just a matter of running to the other pillar. I don't believe this I don't believe that is a consistent solve. However, it was a range mage range as the first attack for all the monsters, so solving that is quite annoying. I believe you can solve it with a Z movement, but I am not going to get into that here. And yeah, it's just a simple run south, throw on your tank gear. For my last odd stack example, you can see that all 3 monsters that will see us are attacking with range, and so we can just go in and pray range and flick the manticore whenever it attacks. Now that we know how to solve waves, let's take a look at how to start waves. This image was posted on the Reddit, I believe the day of release. Credit to B5 for making this. He has all of the spawn locations marked in gray marks and gray boxes. The yellow box in the middle of the screen is where Fremeniks can spawn, and the yellow line going horizontal across the screen is the halfway point. If you're above that, the minions that spawn in the middle of the wave will come from the north side. If you are below that, they will come from the south side. B5 also discovered that at the start of a wave, a 9x9 box centered on you, minions will not spawn there. So what we're going to do is we're going to stand on the left side and try to stand in a place that can stop these 3 spawns from happening. Doing that helps prevent us from taking a lot of damage from minions being on both sides of the pillars. If you cancel out those 3 spawns and run to the northeast pillar, only 2 minions can get around to the south side in later waves. That would be monsters coming from these 2 spots. Note that this doesn't include majors, the 1x1s. If they spawn on either of these spots, they will path to the south of the pillar. So the strategy is we want to start the wave in one of these locations to stop the spawns, marked in blue. We're going to start on the northern side of that so that we can have a faster run to the north pillar. And then it was later found out that the northeast spawn in that box is easiest. That's because in most scenarios you'll want to run to this center tile. The only exception is if a manticore spawns here, you'll run 1 further north, and if 2 manticore spawn, you'll run 1 to the west. What this does is it will ensure an offtick on the 2 minions that will be able to attack you. In my experience, timing this can be a little hard, immediately running to the western tile of that north pillar. So what I have found is if I start in this box, like between the 2 blue regions, and run to that tile, I'll always be on getting there on the same tick I want to run. So as soon as I get there, I can just immediately run. To see a full example of this, I'm going to hit continue here and then immediately click on that white tile I have marked. I'm going to also turn on my prayers just to make sure I get there in time. I see that the manticore spawned on the north tile, but because there's no minion on the south tile, I don't need to worry about off-taking them, so I just need to focus on flicking against the manticore. I also have volatility 3 here, which makes my life slightly harder, but as you can see, it's pretty easily handled. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run around to lure the Minotaur a little closer because my best DPS is with melee. After this, it's just smooth sailing. The Minotaur will spawn, although he won't be able to see me, and won't be able to heal the Manticore. Let's look at a few spawn examples in action. So here we start as normal. We see that the Manticore spawned south, so we're going to run to the southern tile. That makes sure the Ranger and Manticore are off-ticked. As you can see, I handle the first Manticore attack pretty well. Unfortunately, the second one gets 2 hits on me. I do still manage to avoid the explosion, but once I deal with this Fremenik, theoretically it's no damage from here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep praying. Fortunately for me, the Major was not able to see me, the Major that spawned, and it's going to be a slow process, but I am just going to have to kill that Ranger. And not just the major, or the ranger, sorry. I'll also have to kill the manticore here because of that major that will start attacking me if I were to kill the minotaur. So, fortunately we have sped up footage, and I can flick both of them. Note that this is hard. There's not really a easier way to do it. Technically, you can run south after the minotaur spawns if you want, but you still need to flick that initial wave as you're waiting for the minotaur to spawn. So it won't be a perfect solution. Here we have another example of the same minion wave. It is a ranger with the same exact style of manticore, although this time we aren't as lucky with the major. So, my best advice is chug your brews. Run south. You can you can step one tile around again if you would have had two monsters beside you. And yeah, just go from there. In this example, this one's going to be a little bit weird. I have red flag, so that means the minotaur can't be safe spotted. My best advice is just pray against whatever deals the most damage to you. I found that running south and then east is normally my best bet. I do take a lot of damage, unfortunately, but I can also make a slight save here. I don't know if you caught that, but standing in the middle and then stepping one tile north once all the monsters are lined up prevented that major from getting around to attack me. Red flag means that the minotaur will always be able to get to me, which means as long as I can safe spot myself from everything else, I can always deal with the minotaur on its own. So once I do this, it's just the major, and it gives me some time to think about how to solve the wave next. This will be my last example. Once again, the minotaur is going to have red flag, which means he cannot be safe spotted. I'm trying to DPS down this ranger, but I cannot. I'm going to do my same strategy of run south. This time it works a lot better because the manticores are on the right tick so that they're attacking the same time the rangers are attacking. So that means I can protect against a lot of this damage. My only mistake here is I didn't take one step north to prevent the mage from coming. As you can see, I'm a little late there. And all that means is I'm going to have the mage and minotaur on me at the same time. If they're attacking at the same time, you can step under the minotaur to begin an off tick. Just make sure you kill the minotaur first. That's all I have. Thanks for watching, and if you haven't seen, I'm trying to get my Twitch back up and running and my YouTube more started, so a subscribe and a follow would be greatly appreciated. I'll leave a link in the description for the Twitch. I hope this helps you get your quiver, and take care.